Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
And the podcast doesn't revolve around Premier League or fantasy, but it does revolve around football, James.
This is far from someone's fantasy. For those who remember EFL week in the summer, remember we did a special podcast on Derby County, essentially leading with the question of why have they not been demoted? Because there have been several financial irregularities surrounding that football club, and it is now coming back to her, and it's not a joke. This football club is in major trouble.
Should we rename People's Poll the Football Finance Show? Because so often now it ends up being a conversation about a club that has no money, and Derby's no different.
To be fair, so last week we did 5.4 to 5.9 million FPL midfielders. I feel like this subject is a little bit more important. So to kind of get you up to date, since we did that podcast on Derby in the summer, Friday night, there were some rumours late Friday afternoon, early evening, that Derby were potentially going to enter administration. On Friday night, Derby released a statement ahead of their game with Stoke City on Saturday saying of their intention to enter administration. The intention is quite important because as of this moment, to my knowledge, at the time of recording Tuesday afternoon, Derby County are not in administration yet, but they are intending to enter it. Can you explain to me, Suj, why would they say their intention rather than just come out and say we're in it?
This is an interesting one because when a company enters administration, there are certain protections against that company. You can't basically, as a creditor who's owed money, you can't then file in the courts to wind that company up or what have you. It goes into this protected status while an administrator sorts all of the ins and outs out, what's wrong with the finances, finds a buyer, sells the assets, whatever they decide to do. Whilst the company is not in administration, people can take any action that they want. Now, if they've announced their intention to appoint an administrator and an administrator is appointed within a few days, it's not really a window of opportunity for anyone to take legal action or do anything. But more often than not, you don't hear about companies that are going into administration until they pull the trigger on administration. The reason is, right, at the point they've done it, you can't do anything to them. They're untouchable as an organization. So it is a little bit bizarre. My gut feel would be they put that statement out to get a feeler for how the rest of the world would react. There's a feeler for seeing what are the EFL going to do. Are they going to straight away slap us with a points deduction or what have you? And that's my gut feel, but I don't know if there's any other real legal or procedural reason why they made that announcement. And you know, I love it how these announcements get made on a Friday at like 5:30.
Yeah.
When no one's there to question it, or suddenly the press office is closed. You know.
It's like the managerial appointment that no one wanted at 6:30 on a Sunday morning. It's something that raises suspicion. So, I mean, that's given Derby 2 full kind of working days. Admittedly, Saturday, I guess, would have been a working day from them having a home match. Gives them some breathing space to try and think. I've been thinking about this idea of stating that you're going into administration. It's not even a case of they've had an interview and said, look, if we don't get help soon, we may have to go down this route. They've gone, this is our intention. It feels unusual. It almost felt to me like it's been a bit of a play in the hope that there have been some interested buyers. That it doesn't feel like they're close. Some sort of plea to like, look, this is really bad. Can someone now get involved and come and help this football club? I don't feel like it's there. There've been talks going on with interested parties for quite a long time now, and no deal's ever really got that close. And why would someone buy them now?
So the thing with Derby, whilst we recap on the story, obviously they had irregularities in their accounts for 3 years, and the general kind of consensus is there'll be a 9-point deduction for those irregularities, but they were given an extension on producing some documentation and evidence and all that kind of stuff around the irregularities in the account. So that was already pending, and it was what, 3 or 4 weeks ago that they received an extension.
End of August. It's like 4 weeks ago now. Yeah,
4 weeks ago to produce this documentation. This is on top of that the company that owned Derby are going to go into administration, and that will be an additional 12 points. So we're now potentially looking at Derby County with a 21-point deduction. There is almost no way they would be able to survive the championship with that level of points deduction.
Do you want me to give you some bad news before you go any further?
Tell us.
The point deduction might be even more than that.
Wow. In for a penny, in for a pound.
So just to clarify that, just in terms of a factual, the 12-point deduction is automatic the minute they hit administration. Many might remember obviously what happens with Wigan Athletic. They got took over, got put in administration. As soon as you go in administration, no matter what the circumstance, 12-point deduction. The EFL released a statement an hour after Derby's, in spite of the fact it was Friday night, and said, well, when they go in administration, they'll get a 12-point deduction. Until they officially do, nothing's happening. Okay, fine. Right. The 9-point deduction is believed. There was some rumor last week that Mel Morris, the Derby owner, was going to negotiate and agree this 9-point deduction, but it's also suggests that he's trying to get something skimmed off that. So the 9-point deduction is belief based on, please say the word, Suj, amortization. Yeah, close. Of players where Derby submitted their accounts, as we said in that podcast back in the summer, not even necessarily incorrectly, just completely differently to the 91 other clubs, and were asked to resubmit them. They got an extension on the original deadline. Apparently, it's not coming out. We suggested on that pod that they'd probably be able to whack in the stadium value and would cover up the 3-year losses allowed within profit and sustainability, basically financial fair play reports. But it looks like it's not being enough, which is why they'd asked for the extension. Apparently, there's still stuff missing in these resubmitted reports. So the EFL are like, done with you. So we're expecting another 9 points from that. So that's minus 21. The elephant in the room is 3 points suspended, which has been going on anyway, which is to make sure they pay their players. If they're going in administration, who's paying the players? It's going to be minus 24, mate.
I'll be honest with you. Anybody who is a listener and is an accountant and wants to argue the case otherwise, go for it. But they shouldn't need more than 2 or 3 days to sort out this amortization piece. It's not a month and a half's worth of work. They don't own that many players. It's a simple formula. Change the formula, run it across the spreadsheet. I'm sure it could actually be done in 4 or 5 hours, but they're kicking it forward. But not if the result's really bad. Exactly. They're kicking forward the deadline because they don't want to submit the numbers, James.
That's it. Exactly.
And the problem now for Derby is they go into administration. We know Mel Morris is up the creek and he ain't got a paddle. The rumours are that he has lost in the region of £200 million in Derby now by going crazy. There's a lot of debt that has to be paid. So if someone was to take over the existing limited company, buy it from the administrators, there's a certain amount of debt that's protected debt. And that's to the tune of £50 million, which begs the question. Now, Mel Morris isn't going to want to give up the club for nothing, although he's appointed administrators, he may end up going into liquidation. He's at a loss. But if they're going to try and find a buyer, I'm sure he's going to want to try and get something back. And any prospective buyer has to stump up this £50 million to cover debts that are protected. If it's going to cost you £60, £70 million to buy Derby County, begs the question, why wouldn't you just buy a football club with no debt and invest £60 or £70 million, especially when they're about to drop to League One? Listen, you could buy a League One football club for 20% of that 50 million or 60 million, 10, 12 million, I'm sure. So why would you, with the bad culture, not a good squad, and all the problems that come with it? So I think it's very difficult for Derby to find a buyer at the moment.
Can you elaborate on that 50 million? So you said it's protected debt?
It's protected is the wrong word. Preferential debt.
Okay.
So there's a large part of that, 30 million, that is
tax.
Tax.
Yeah.
Now, in the olden days, and I say the olden days being not like years ago,
pre-COVID,
pre-2020, HMRC, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, was not a protected creditor, which meant that if you went into administration, there's certain debt that in a hierarchy, if you'd signed a personal guarantee or was the banks or so on and so on, they had different status on their debt. They come first of the line. HMRC never had that protection, which is bizarre, right? So you'd see companies that would rack up hundreds of thousands of pounds of government debt, tax debt, burn the company, and actually wouldn't have to pay a penny back. HMRC been championing for years, like, this is stupid, right? It's a scam. It's a legitimized scam that people were running for years. And the government, all right, fair play. We've been paying out furlough for a little while. We've been paying out all of these COVID grants. We need to get some money back. Fine. Let's make HMRC a preferred creditor, like top of the list when it comes to any money that the administrators recover has to go to them first. Along with that, football debt is preferential, as opposed to, like, if you employed a marketing agency, for example, they are not going to take preference over another football club or someone within the football space. So that's preferred. So this 50 million is kind of debt that would have to get paid first before anything else happened. And that's why anyone that's going to buy the club needs to really put their hand in their pocket, mate. Big flipping pocket.
Yeah, it's when I first heard the news, my instinct was, okay, they're going into administration. This happens a lot. They're a massive football club, unlike some of the others. We're going to mention Bury again and stuff. The Oldham, there's ongoing problems that we need to keep an eye on. Rochdale, there's some other clubs, particularly in that northwest area. But Derby is a historical football club with a rich history, who at various points in the 1970s was the best football team in this country. They've sold 16,000 season tickets. They're 20,000 in the ground, which is actually low for them at the moment, but it's understandable. 20,000 in the ground at Pride Park. They're a sizable football club, right? It's not Mickey Mouse. They've sold their full allocation of away tickets for Sheffield United away in the coming weeks, despite the ticket prices being £39.
Wow.
They've got the support. They've got support. The infrastructure of the club, all the kind of stuff that keeps it ticking over is there, right? Their supporters are not going anywhere. The Derby fans are not going to suddenly go, shit, Forest Wolves down the road or whatever. It's not particularly down the road, but you know what I mean? They're in the Premier League. I'm going to go and support them. It's not like that, right?
No.
Derby fans are Derby fans. They'll stick with the club. It's a big club.
Don't discount the stadium. I mean, Pride Park is a decent big.
You mean the stadium that Mel Morris sold for a lot more than it was worth to himself?
Well, look, that's going to get investigated, you'd hope, by the administrators. But Derby have a lot of clubs. I think the biggest jewel in the Derby crown for someone that wants to buy the football club is probably the stadium.
Who owns that? But what happens to the stadium? Because one of the questions that's been asked, and I'm not sure if this is right or not, is the idea, is the stadium in administration?
No one knows.
It's weird, isn't it?
If it's a separate limited company, then no, the stadium is not in administration. But Mel Morris is not stupid. Anyone that wants to buy the football club is going to want to buy the stadium.
Well, yeah, Derby ain't got nowhere to play then. They're going to have to buy the stadium off him as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's every chance they could buy the stadium and Mel Morris will make his money back off the stadium and take a haircut on the actual limited company that runs the football side of the operations. The EFL, this is another example of lack of oversight and understanding when companies and people are putting too much money into it.
I don't know. I'm not sure if the EFL could have done anything different here, right? Let's just take a rewind here to kind of 2014, I want to say. Derby started spending some serious money, right? They chased the dream. If they'd have beaten Aston Villa in the playoff final, I want to say 2018, might have been 19. They would have gone up and Villa would have been in financial pit. This could be Villa now. If Derby had beat Villa in that playoff final, this could be Villa. Derby could be mid-table in the Premier League. No issues, right? They spent to chase the dream. You said Morris had lost 200 odd million of his own personal fortune chasing. But the sympathy, you can't, he put 200 million into the club. Spent recklessly. Their turnover at one point their wage expenditure at one point was 161% of their turnover.
Well, this is what the oversight the EFL should be putting in, though. Surely this is what the EFL should be saying. is not allowed.
But that's kind of what the profit and sustainability reports are all. So you've got to stay within your limit. It's like Derby have constantly been trying to find ways to maneuver how to stay within this 39 million. I mean, I don't even know how Championship Club can lose 39 million over 3 years and still be sustainable. But that's kind of the limit of what it is. And Derby have been dancing around that year on year. I mean, Derby's is, I think it's, the Athletic report seems to suggest it was probably about 50 million over the 3 years or so. So, I mean, that's what the punishment's there for and stuff. So in this one, this isn't a case where someone took over and they weren't a fit and proper person to run the football club. Mel Morris loves Derby County Football Club. He's a Derby County fan. He made his money through, as we covered, Candy Crush and other business ventures, and was able to be in a position to buy his football club and try and take it back to the Premier League. The problem is the way he went about it was reckless. And it's got the ultimate prize. I mean, one question to say about Morris is I can completely understand why he doesn't want to do this anymore. But his football club, the club that he supports, he wants to put in administration. He's still got 400 to 500 million pounds sitting in the bank.
Yep.
So the football club, this isn't like, again, I don't want to use the Berry case, but they didn't have the money to pay the bills, right? Yep. In the case of stopping a football club going out of business, okay, it might break the rules in terms of you're going to get points deduction, but in terms of its existence and making sure it carries on, Morris could pay all the debt. Could just pay it. 50 million pound, the 30 million for the tax bill, the 10 million owed to the football creditors, the 20 million for the owed to some American private equity firm for something. He could clear that in one go, but he's decided no more. So, I mean, now you've gone from, okay, this guy tried to carry the football club up the league, but now he's left his own football club in the Shire, hasn't he?
Mm. Yeah.
Quite sad.
I do think that one of the things that I'm hearing more and more regularly is Gary Neville talking about that when owners want to overspend, they have to put a bond in with the football.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I just think that I'm hearing it more and more and more and more. And I think it's actually going to be one of the solutions that's going to get enacted. It won't, not in the next 6 months, not even maybe 12, but within 18 to 24 months, I can see a situation where you want to spend big, go for it. Have at it, Hoss, but you've got to put some money aside for us to make sure that you can afford to do it. Because now, to buy Derby, despite the shit situation they're in, someone needs to have a couple £100 million cash ready to spend on wages and all the other associated costs that come with it, as well as buying a football club and what have you. And so to have that much spare to blow on a football club, how much do you need in total? Like, you need a billy. You need a big fat.
But this is the problem. Billion. Because where I've been thinking, Derby will be all right. They've got all that support, the history, all that. Yeah, someone will want to buy the club. Actually, when you look at the amount of money that's got to be paid off just to clear the problem, and if it's 21 points, they're relegated. And they've started the season okay. They're 12th, right? And we'll talk about Wayne Rooney a little bit. He's doing a brilliant job actually keeping that together at the moment. But if it's 21 point deduction, getting relegated, right? Because ain't 21 points better than the team 22nd in the league. They're going down. They're going down to League One. The Wickham owner, whose name escapes me at the moment, who's like, he wanted to sue for 10 million. They accepted quite gracefully, but now this is happening. They're thinking of making a court appeal to say, well, you should have, as we asked in the summer, should Derby have been demoted? This points deduction, we actually concluded it probably wasn't going to come because we thought they'd throw the refinance into the stadium to cover the debt issue, which obviously is not working. So they reckon they've lost out on 20 million by going down. So you've got to add that next year straight away. Bang, that's another 20 million off. And actually in Derby's case, if you compare Derby and Wickham, obviously what are Derby making in terms of gate receipts, etc., and compared to Wickham? Now I realise Derby with sustainability, the fans will still go in League One. I'm not sure they're going to pay 39 quid for an away ticket in League One and stuff, right? We're going too far now. So you just can't, commercially, the coverage of games on Sky, etc. You just can. There'll be to be honest, there'll just be another big fish in that pond in League One with the likes of Sunderland are there, Portsmouth are there, etc. Right, so they're not going in there and being a kind of standalone like when Man City went there in '98, and it was like, oh my God, Man City are in League One. What is this? Derby are just being there with a few other clubs who have fallen. Their history of the success in the 70s and stuff doesn't necessarily mean anything. So someone's got to come in and basically just to get the football club on a sound footing, ready to be competitive, I would say, at League One level in 12 months from now, 100 million. Yeah. To clear. That's forgetting the buying the club, just to clear the problem.
And
100 million.
Improving the squad and everything that goes with it. Remind me, once we finish talking about Wayne Rooney, to give any Derby fans that are listening one ray of hope, James. Wayne Rooney was on Sky, obviously, and he heard how he heard about the administration and everything from Sky.
It's unbelievable.
Themselves. It's ridiculous. The players hearing about it and chatting in their WhatsApp group, oh, well, we've got a points deduction and all the rest of it now. I cannot understand why stuff like this doesn't get communicated to the staff who are the players. The players are employees of the football club. They should be understanding what is going on. But honest to God, I'm really impressed with how Rooney's handled himself. For someone who gets a lot of grief for just being, not very bright, he's on
for being Wayne Rooney, unfortunately.
Yeah, he was talking about he's still demanding 100% of the players. They won at the weekend,
against a good team. Stoke have been doing really well this year.
Yeah. So Wayne Rooney, I think he doesn't need to be there. He has no. We said it on the last time we talked about Derby. He's got no need to be there, but he is, and he's sticking it out. And I respect him a lot for doing that.
The best thing for Wayne Rooney's career, if he wants to be serious about football management, is probably to walk out. But everything that within the football club right now says not. Well, I think he's got a duty of care and responsibility, right? And I think he remembers his roots and where he came through and stuff. And the people lean on him. The people lean on him as a leader. I know there's a lot of lazy kind of punditry. Oh, he might be a poor manager. There was a lot of this last year because listen, they were lucky to stay up. But the way he's galvanizing the squad at the moment, they shouldn't be 12th. Don't forget they're already transfer embargoed and stuff. And they possibly will be for a couple of years to come, by the way. So he hasn't gone and bought any players, and he's gone and got people like Phil Jagielka in, right? It's 39. Ravel Morrison, he's been everywhere, hasn't he? Bless him. But Rooney would have known him from when he was a kid at Manchester United. He would have known Jagielka from playing from England. So he's used some of his links and stuff like that. And he's galvanised a squad that's actually performing better than some of its parts in the league at the moment. I think he, in an odd way, Rooney's part of the problem, because the whole deal where 32 Red was supposedly paying some of his wages, etc., to get him, he should not have been getting Wayne Rooney. The wage turnover was already ridiculous, and you want to go and get probably the most high-profile English footballer, other than David Beckham of probably the 21st century. You want to go and buy him in. It's not feasible. You can't do it. You didn't have the excess money to be able to do that. Obviously, Rooney's there. It's not Rooney's fault how much money he got paid in the deal. And it's not his fault however much he's getting paid now as well. He probably looks at it and goes, these people need me. And he probably feels a sense of probably guilt and burden. I'm going to guess he's on more money than anybody else, which I always believe the football manager probably should be. But because he's Wayne Rooney, he would be anyway. He probably feels the guilt and the burden of knowing that people in the football club are going to lose their jobs. And some of these players, their careers are, if you lose Derby, people say, oh, they're going to get other clubs. Who's going to pay Phil Jagielka the wages he wants next year? His careers are done. His old players, his young players. I think he's trying to galvanise them. I think he's handling himself so well at the moment. And the fact that he had to find out via Sky Sports News on Friday night that the football team that he manages was going into administration and facing points deductions that could be up to minus 24 a night before a game, and then they won it the next day. Like, full credit. He's gonna stick that out for, I think, for as long as he can, until possibly the point where he might have to resign at the point that they go, well, we can't pay you. We actually need you to go. They might have to sack him. Then does he get compensation? I'm sure he probably wouldn't take him for it. But I mean, in terms of his future as a coach, manager, whatever, he'd be better off out because he can't win doing this. There's no win for Wayne Rooney doing this.
I mean, whatever happens, good or bad, will always come with an asterisk. Now, good results and good performance will be he did it despite the difficult situation, and bad will be, oh, well, I think he can do okay out of this. He's just got to keep him moving and keep him going. And handle himself in interviews as he did with Sky, which was very good. There's certain players who go on to management, and when you look back at their career as players, Steven Gerrard falls into this category, for example. They were ruthless winners. Rooney was a winner. He wanted to win at all costs. There are other players like Frank Lampard, I think, was a winner, but he wasn't ruthless in the way that a Rooney or a Gerrard was. And that's why I think Rooney will be okay in management. I do think he has that win at all costs mentality. And hopefully he can do some good there. But yeah, look, I'll tell you my opinion as well on the situation overall, James, is obviously it was latest news. We put it in the people's poll. I almost didn't want to talk about it yet because they haven't gone into administration.
Derby County Part 3.
Exactly, and the story hasn't unfolded yet, so we're still a little bit hypothetical on how this is going to roll out and what have you. Of course, it's a topic we should be discussing. Truth be told, I wanted to talk about Hearts because we don't give Scottish football much coverage, but the problem at the moment is it's very new and very unknown, and we don't know the legal kind of ramifications and how things are going to roll out. So.
Do you think Derby County will survive?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. The brand is quite big. The stadium that they have going for them as well. And as you've mentioned, Mel Morris still has enough money that they'll get to, that they will, that he'll do something. It's a one club city as well. So I do think Derby County.
Got plenty on the doorstep though, haven't they? The Forest, the Leicesters, etc.
Well, that was going to be my kind of Derby County fans chin up. You're above Forest at least, kind of thing in the table.
Won't be for long.
But I think our Nottingham Forest fans will probably want to leave us instead of the Derby fans if we start pulling that.
If Forest don't sort themselves out, they'll be going down to League One together.
Well, Forest has just appointed Steve Cooper, haven't they?
Yes.
From Swansea, and he was a good manager at Swansea. So you never know, but not a great time for the East Midlands overall. I do think Derby will survive. Maybe I am biased by the fact that they've got a modern stadium. I wouldn't call it new, but let's call it modern. It's a one club city where they've got a lot of fans, and they've got a reasonable brand. They've been in the Premier League recent enough that there'll still be some people interested in buying Derby County. Yeah, they will survive, James. I'm pretty sure they will survive.
Are we being presumptuous to say that though? Because it's Derby and it's not Macclesfield or it's Bury. It's Derby. They'll be all right because this with the changing of that tax bill needing to be paid it's a bit of a game changer, isn't it?
It's a game changer, but look, people put laws and regulations in place and then don't enforce them. It's almost like a test case. It's a test case for the EFL and the administrators and what have you. Are you going to run by the letter of the law, or are you going to make leniencies and then kind of brush it under the carpet because it's hard for you to enforce? Which comes back to this whole premature thing. I think this is going to be a really interesting case to see how tough and strict the authorities are on Derby, because that will set a blueprint for maybe how cases like this are managed moving forward.
Football needs its reform. And everybody in the know keeps saying it.
Finance of football, yeah, man. It's yeah. Get Kieran Maguire on the old blower at the EFL or the FA. Give him a job. Yeah, and I'll happily be his PA if he wants. I don't mind that. But football does need reform, and it's getting talked about more and more and more. This is the tip of the iceberg, James. We've called it the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is like the idea that you had in terms of someone's got to put money aside, be at a certain level. I don't know, so 100 million at championship level, for example. I don't know, 50 million at League One level, whatever. There's got to be put aside to say, shit, it's the fan, take your fucking money.
Yeah.
Or it's got to be paid as like a deposit or something. But then we're talking about we've just said, right? So in Derby's case, someone's got to spend 100 million just to clear the problem. And then what, another 100 million so now we're at 200 million. This is what we're saying. If Mel Morris is serious about selling the club, and if someone's serious about buying them, this needs a billionaire. Or Derby are going to disappear into a bit of a wilderness, no matter how many people they can get in the football ground.
Agreed.
But I agree. It will. I think the fact that Mel Morris has that money, his personal fortune, surely he would not let the football club like die, would he? His club.
I mean, it comes back down to throwing good money after bad money. He may just want to cut his losses, walk away, and keep what he has. It's very difficult to know where his headspace is, and I don't want to be sympathetic, and I don't want to be unsympathetic. Anyone losing £200 million in their boyhood club is not a nice situation to be in, but also he's mismanaged the situation. So, yeah, this is going to be a.
But he's really part. I mean, you mentioned Kieran Maguire. He did a pod yesterday. And he said someone had tipped him off that apparently Morris was trying to launch some new businesses. So how much trouble is he in?
Who knows? Yeah, it's horrible situation.
You feel for the fans, and you feel for the employees that we don't see, the people who in this situation, lose their jobs, who depend on it and stuff. You mentioned it being a one city club where we can't go to the next football club and get a job there as a steward or whatever, or tea lady, whatnot. It's the supporters. I'm not sure that the points deduction is fair on football fans. It's not the football fans' fault, but I don't know what the alternative solution is to the points deduction. I don't know what it is. I'd yet to hear anyone come up with a theory of what should be different to a points deduction, other than a little bit like that. You say, okay, fine, that 100 million you put aside as a deposit for buying the football club, we're taking that. But then they're still gaining, if they've overspent, they're still gaining an advantage on the other clubs in the championship, right? So there has to be some form of punishment somewhere. This story, where you're definitely right, is this story is bubbling. Actually, it's not finished. Yeah. It's going to continue.
The thing is, as well, to kind of wrap it up with a bit of a rant, the world is different now, James, to 3 years ago, even 2 years ago, pre-COVID, right? You're talking about someone with $1 billion that's willing to spunk 150 million into a football club. 3 or 4 years ago, when the economy's booming and everyone's doing well, people will take that risk. Today, there's still people with that money, but they won't take that risk. The way the global economy is it's walking on eggshells at the moment. You've seen now, like, let me give you some dumb examples. Wholesale gas price. Gas price has gone up. Your electricity bill and your gas bill is going to be more expensive come in the future. I don't actually understand why the gas price should go up, other than someone's, whacking up the price a little bit here. But just everything, like, there's a shortage of oil-based products like plastics, and people can't get chipboard. I know a guy who has a loft conversion company. He can't get chipboard. We're struggling with paper bags, like, to import them in at the moment. The whole supply chain of products is in disarray. There's no lorry drivers and so on and so on. Your monthly cost of living as a family of three will be 200 to 300 quid a month more come January, without you doing anything or spending anything more, just because the shit in your life costs more money. It's going to be the same across the entire country, and everyone's going to get a slap in the face soon of realizing it. I think a lot of people haven't realized it because they haven't started traveling out back to work and all this kind of thing. And in that type of economy, who's going to want to invest in the money pit that is football? It's just not.
It's about time you gave me a pay rise then, boss. Yeah, life's getting more expensive.
And if you want to support the show, you can go to Patreon.
If you want James to still feed his kids, support Planet FPL on Patreon. Yeah, that's it.
The show, and you sign up to Patreon, and enough of you do it. We can buy Derby County Football Club.
If you're a Derby fan, and if you're a Derby fan, you're listening, be interesting to hear. I think any sympathy for Morris has gone at this point, because I think there's some who were like, look, he was chasing the dream, it's gone wrong. I think the sympathy for it's gone now. I feel for you. I know there's a lot of people out there, particularly within that league, who feel like Derby have been cheating for a while. It's not the supporters of the football club's fault. Remember that. It's not their fault. It's just their club. They don't choose how it's run. So have some sympathy out there for Derby fans. I'd certainly do at the moment.
Indeed.
Where's my pay rise?
There we go. So we're going to end this podcast now. So me and James can enter a negotiation, but we will be back at you tomorrow.
I'm gonna enter contract negotiations for my extension with Planet FPL whilst still just sitting in his car for the benefit of those on the audio.
James, can you do me a favour? Can you email me daniel.levy@planetfpl.com?
I need to ask you the question that everybody on YouTube's been wondering. Why has your car door been opening a lot?
Oh, it's hot.
Every now and then I'm getting distracted, so just car doors opening.
It's mildly warm, so I'm just going to open it now. So let me get some air in here. I'm out on the road, mate. out on the road.
You're in Coventry. You could have gone to Derby and plugged to the car outside. It's not that far.
Do you want me to? I could do it tomorrow.
No.
Yeah, and listeners, thank you for supporting the show. As we did mention, if you want to go to Patreon, you can do that, but we do know, obviously, it's entirely optional, but you would get access to our Slack channel, additional podcasts, and a prize league and all that other jazz as well. But yes, please do get involved in the conversation. If it's in the comments on YouTube or whatever, we might have only 500-600 people that listen or watch this particular episode, but it's 500 more than zero. It's more, I know.
500 Derby fans that listen to this, mate.
It's more, I know, but my point is that we need to keep this conversation going. So if everybody can just keep talking about it, keep raising the issues, then hopefully we'll get to a point where financial nonsense in football stops, man.
Yeah, let's hope now. There'll always be some financial nonsense in football, unfortunately, I think, Suj. I don't think we'll ever completely get away from it. People will bend rules. They always will.
Well, let's see. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate all of your support. Stay safe wherever you are. Ciao for now.
Thanks, patrons. Thanks, patrons. Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man child. Thanks, patrons. Stay out of that nonsense.